Welcome back to our St. Louis Blues rebuild in Franchise Hockey Manager 11. Now we're on the eve of the first day of the 2028 season. If you're last with us, you would have seen the draft that we end up having. It's probably the last draft that you're going to see us do for quite some time unless we feel as though it's necessary. I know we still have picks and stuff, but obviously this is the wrong one. We'll look at that. Aaron was our first pick. Oranchovsky was our second. Baranov. And then Cefa as well. We were rated as one of the worst drafts of this whole league, but there were some players that I did like. I didn't mind Peter Aaron that we ended up getting in the first round. Obviously, his grade's not necessarily that great, but determination looks pretty good, and even his getting open looks good. I kind of base a lot of it on role ratings. I feel as though that's kind of a little bit of a helper for all that, but we also end up getting Spanberg. I think Spanberg was one that ended up getting us in hot water, but he ended up looking pretty good. He wasn't supposed to be drafted, and his determination was pretty good, his physicals as well, and even just his offensive rating just seemed off the charts for a 18-year-old or 17 at the time. So obviously we end up going all in on that, but we'll go back on what the season preview is before we get into too much. But obviously Ottawa is the top team. Toronto is also up there as well, and so is Buffalo. So pretty much the top two of the three top teams. I think Buffalo is fourth, obviously taking away one of the Canadian teams that was there. And Anaheim is one of the dark horses as well. Not much changes in terms of scoring race or in terms of anything else. Everything seems pretty same except for Arthur Atiamov is now one of the standouts for goalies. So top three goalies for Toronto. He did play last year, 910 save percentage, which is pretty good. But after looking a little bit at some of the trades that ended up happening, I'm trying to find the one that kind of angered me just a little bit. Now, it wasn't, I think it was from Seattle and Buffalo. Yeah, Shane Wright goes for a second round pick. That is crazy. I mean, I understand that he might not necessarily be the greatest, but a second round pick is criminal. I probably would have even given up a first for him, or at least 2 seconds, 3 seconds. I understand, yeah, his grade's not that much, but it still seems kind of crazy at 24 for a franchise just to give up on him. But I guess moving on, we'll show you some of the transactions that we end up doing to get us to this point. So obviously we're going to do the transaction log, and then we'll show you the team and kind of how it looks. But we'll go with signings first. We did sign Joseph Wall as our backup. I know the AA is going to try and make him start, but he's going to be our backup. We did add some other depth in terms of goalies as well. Leenders and Bassi are going to end up playing probably in the AHL, and I think Ryerson we end up putting in the ECHL. Alexander Zetterberg and Morrissey. I think Morrissey's going to end up starting. He's kind of regressing already, so just looking at his contract, his defensive rating is not necessarily there. He is 3.5 stars though, and I think it's just more so for rotation. So just looking at his contract though, we do have him for 3 years, 5.7, which isn't to say that we can't trade him after 1 or 2. I think we only really need him for a buffer. So as far as we know, we can probably end up getting rid of him. Even if we end up having to eat some of the contract, I'll do that. But like I said, we're not necessarily at the point where we need it. Zetterberg, I think, is going to start in the AHL as well. Trades, though, we did get rid of Broberg. We parted ways with him. Obviously, he's not the worst, but I just saw so many other players that we could have brought in instead. I do think we did need a left D, but we got Stenberg instead, whose offensive rating looks pretty good. He is going to start in the AHL just to start the season. I feel as though if there's any injury, he is going to be the first one that we end up bringing up. I did have Ivar Stenberg, I think, on Philly, so you have to take a look at that. We did pair up the two brothers for a third and a fourth round pick. Obviously, they can't start here, so why not send them to Philly? We did, however, get a first round pick for Holloway, so we're really hoping that Leafs end up tanking this year. Dorian we gave up for a fourth. Rogers and Oster for a fourth and a fifth, and then Koss for a fourth. We mainly got rid of them for the reason that we needed more space just in case we need to sign players. Currently at 45, so feels though 45 is probably a healthy amount that we can add if we need it. 68 million currently on the salary, but we'll take a look at where we're gonna be next year. Next year we're gonna have around 10 million in terms of cap space, which I think is going to be pretty much nothing because I don't know if it's already taken effect. No, it might have actually. So yeah, I think it's taken into effect 10.5 million next season. And here's who the guys that end up making the team look like. Most of the players are extended for a couple seasons, but I feel as though Jake Neighbors could be on the cusp and then back as well of whether or not we continue with them. I think Neighbors does have potential, so we do need a left winger. But if we get someone better, we might part ways. Parkasic is extended for 3 years, and then Misa, he's going to make 3.5 million next year. Romani only a little bit with 1.5, and then Aram Olsen we just brought in as well. Artemonov with 2.5 next year, and Martoni with 4 million. We did extend also Augustin, but only for 1 million over 3 years, which is pretty good. Ekblad's obviously going to be done after the season. We might even get rid of him if we can bring in someone, but I do like his ratings just in case we need someone. I think we have, we'll take a look actually at the lines first. Once I do the lines, I think we're going to take off Ekblad though. I think I'd rather Janicic or Christopher to play. We're prioritizing defense because I think we need to play. Yeah, Christopher is probably going to play lefty. We're going to try and train him as that. See, AI is going to always suggest Wall because he's rating, but we want Gustin to improve as much as possible. Our back is there. I think he's more of a fourth liner. Misa now left wing. Aaron Olsen. I think we're going to switch with Romani. I think just in terms of potential, but I do like this second line once I end up moving Martoni up to the top. But Villeneuve and Palika, I think that's going to switch there as well. Morrissey is going to play with Palika, and Dupont's going to be with Villeneuve. Chris Ferro and Virenhoff are going to end up starting as well. So not too bad, if I do say so myself. But taking a look in terms of the depth chart, I think Dzeko is the only one that probably should be on this team. But I mean, I feel as though we need other players a little bit more. I think Olsen has a higher ceiling, so I'd rather kind of prioritize that, which I might part ways with Dzeko. I think Bassi is supposed to play instead of Augustin, but we'll kind of ignore that for the time being. So opening day, we do face off against Kings away from home, and we do win 4-2. So not bad. Dichow is their starter, which I think is probably why we beat them, because I've had Dichow in the past and he's pretty terrible. Dvorsky with his first and Chris Ferro with his first, and then Neighbors scores, and then Martoni gets on the score sheet early. I do like to see that. I want to see Martoni just lights out. I did see him play, and he is pretty good in real life. I have to say that. I will probably upload a video of him later on if I can, but if I can't, then unfortunately I'm not going to be able to. But I do have it on my phone. I just have to see whether or not it's decent quality or not. But he did play in yesterday's game, so I am doing this recording just after I end up watching the game, which is still pretty cool. But yeah, it's definitely something I kind of want to do more of. If I can even record some of these players playing in real life, it'd be pretty great to see how the prospects actually flourish in real life. Looking at the draft for next year, though, 2 5-stars, Reed and Milicevic look pretty good, and even the top 4 look pretty good actually. I'd say even Boost looks good. Bella Boost looks very good. So, I mean, really hoping that either us or Toronto don't do that well. But so far we're starting off 2-0. Martoni with his second and third, and then fourth. He gets a hat trick in the second game. That is awesome. Now currently top in terms of goals. That is what I like to see from the youngster. So Augustin doing well as well. I do like seeing these two players develop. 2 wins already, is currently top of the league, but his goals against average of 1.5 is pretty great, if I do say so myself. It does put us in second position. Toronto already 1-1. Robert Thomas gets his 600 point, so congratulations to him. We now set our sights on Colorado. Can we win this divisional game? And we do handsomely. 9-2. We give up the first goal before Artemonov, Dupont, and Lafreniere end up scoring in the first. Rantanen ends up scoring first in the second, but Thomas and Lafreniere and Olsen gets his first. He then starts it with the second goal of the season in the third period, and then Misa and Bolduc get on the score sheet as well. Neighbors now hurt. Sprained ankle for 1 to 2 months. That is wild. So he's going to move to the injury list. I'm hoping... Oh, no, I don't know if we can actually... That's going to send us below. So Sugart's going to get the nod, but I can't... And Dupont's day-to-day with eye irritation. So we're not going to be able to really do anything there. That does hurt a little bit. Because I would love to be able to bring in someone, but the question is really who. We'd have to actually move someone to the IR, but in order to be able to bring someone up. But I think we're going to kind of just allow Sugar to end up getting the opportunity. But we'll have to allow that to kind of marinate just a little bit. The cap situation is definitely something that kind of hurts us a little bit, obviously, still. But there weren't that many players that could have actually started on our team, so unless we're going to acquire them through trade, there's not too much that we can really do with that. But it does suck to lose one of our top line mates for Martoni and company. Can definitely make it so it's going to be a little bit difficult for us, but we are waiting to face off against Anaheim, who were one of the dark horses this season. Obviously, we weren't in that conversation, but the fact that Toronto is 1-2 is getting me all giddy. I am excited to see if they actually start to tank, but current champions just end up passing us in terms of the standings. They were previously a wild card team that got bumped up and won. Surprisingly, Artemonov's going to get the nod on the first line. I do like to see that as well. Gustin's still going to get the nod over Wall, and Shergan ends up hopping over Misa. So not bad. Do now face again home 4-2 win. So it didn't hurt us too bad. Lafreniere with his third and fourth before Shergat ends up scoring his first, and Thomas ends up putting the nail in the coffin at the very end to solidify our 4th win in a row. And this season's starting off a lot better than any of the other seasons. Now I know we can crash down to earth and reality after this. We do face off against Carolina, who are currently 6-0. So one team's O is definitely going to be taken away. And Dupont still with that eye irritation. Can we end up winning? We do. We maintain our undefeated status. Misa with his second, Romani and Lafreniere and Pekarsic end up scoring before Bolduc and Artemonov in the second, and then Olsen scores in the third. But pretty one-sided for that, but we did give them the first loss of the season, and we're 5-0 and currently at the top with Nashville. Now facing off against Winnipeg, who are currently at the bottom. But if you have seen anything previously, you would have seen that we have lost these games every single time without fail. So Winnipeg is probably going to be our first loss. And it is, yeah, 6-2, because I don't know why the game ends up making you lose against the bottom feeders, but Shergat and Villeneuve with the only goals there for us. But we are now not undefeated. So Chris Farrow, now he is going to IR. Now we can bring up someone. So we can bring up one of the players. I think Jeko's going to get the nod here. I know I did say that we would give the nod to Stenberg, but Stenberg's kind of all the way down there, so maybe we don't. Maybe we kind of give the opportunity for someone else. But obviously we're equipped at defense, but does suck that we end up losing one of our lefty, and that we end up getting our first loss of the season to it was previously 1-5 team in our division, no less. So we now have to dust this off, head to Vegas, and try our luck there. Gustin's gonna actually I'm gonna give it to Wall. Wall hasn't got many opportunities there, and Genesec is gonna take over there. I think Ekblad as well. So we did lose in the preseason to Vegas, but we shut them out. Wall being an absolute wall with a 6-0 win. Ekblad and Dvorsky and Shurgit and Misa in the first, and then Morsi and Artemonov. Artemonov with a shorthanded goal for his third of the season. Not too bad. We now continue on the road to Vancouver. Once again, a team that, well, they got their third win there. But once again, a team that's not necessarily at the top of their game. But like I said, those teams give us difficulty. I'm surprised that we even beat Vegas Knights this season, which again, 2 seasons in a row that they're at the bottom. It doesn't seem like them. Them and Oilers, I don't think I've seen them that wounded really. So Wall's going to get a second start because I like to roll with the shutout teams. Lafreniere, Dupont, Romani, and Ekblad end up scoring in that one. And we now go back home to face Detroit, who is currently 2-7. Boston also yet to win. I don't think I've seen Boston this bad either. So this reality is probably going to be very good for some who probably don't like either two of those teams, because there's players that people either love them or they hate them, and he can still play. That 1 to 2 weeks. I thought I saw 1 to 2 months before, so we don't have to really worry about it. I do want Fahrenhoff to play instead of Ekblad though. So Martoni, obviously, Romani, and Dzeko. I think Romani's going to go at the bottom. And I'm going to move back to the bottom line and Augustin there. Shurgit getting the opportunity. I do want Shurgit higher, though. And then, yeah, even higher than Pekarsic. 2 screeners, not a good duo. We're going to do counterattacking there, and hopefully that is good enough. Do face them at home here, and we do lose 5-1. Again, the lower teams give us a struggle. Bolduc with his third of the season, but that is all she wrote. That is terrible. The fact that we lose against those teams is the worst. We now face off against Toronto just over the border, and we're going to face off Philly after that, who are currently also a bottom team. So probably, if my predictions are right, we're going to beat a team like Toronto, which obviously Wall's going to start because that's just what you have to do. And I'm going to put Dzeko back. I'm going to move these all to what they were before and see if the AI is smarter than I am. We do win 4-3, so I guess it is. We win in overtime too, so Wall gets the win against his former team. Bolduc and Lafreniere score before Lafreniere scores his 8th, and then Thomas ends up scoring in overtime. So not too bad for that. We now face off against the Flyers, who are 4-4-0. I expected to see a little bit better from them because at this point with the Flyers we were definitely a top team. So it is sad to see, but now with the Blues we're 8-2-0, and the only teams that can beat us are the bad ones. So I do like our chances here. Ricard probably going to get a nod at some point. He is currently 2 points in 3 games in the AHL. And we get shut out. Oh no, we end up shutting them out. Oh, gee, I'm so confused there. We end up shutting out Philly 4-0. Thomas, Dupont, and Shurgit and Misa end up scoring. So nice to see Wall doing pretty well. I do like that I think we're going to kind of rotate between both of them. Augustin with the more wins, but Wall is currently at a 964 save percentage. That is wild. Guess we're going to have to roll with the hot hand against Boston, and now Pekarsic. I think Pekarsic is going to go on IR. I think we have to. I think we bring up Ricard and kind of see what happens there. Neighbors, no, Neighbors can't get the nod, so Ricard's going to get it instead. That's wild that they would even suggest that. Jekko I could see going back down. Aaron Olsen, yeah, definitely second or third line if I can help it. Misa, Ricard's going to get the third line there. And then I'm going to leave in Wall because he's been pretty good. And I do want this win. We win 5-4, so barely. In regulation, though, Ekblad, Ricard with 2, and then Thomas scores before Dvorsky gets the eventual winner there. Still pretty crazy, 10-2-0, and we almost made it way more difficult than we had to. We now face off against Chicago, who was the team that knocked us out of the playoffs last year, which I think they probably did us a little bit of a solid because it would have been a difficult road ahead. Rivalry game here, though. Can we win at home? And Wall ends up holding up 3-1. Lafreniere scores his 9th. Dvorsky with his 4th, and Thomas with his 6th. Bernhoff can now play lefty. I do like that. Granted, I'm sure he could always have played lefty, but now that he's being trained, it's pretty good. So Pekarsic is going to get back onto the active roster, which means that we're going to have to bring someone down. Now, I think we're going to look at how well... Yeah, Ricard's staying up. Jekko's going to move down. 5 games is... Yeah, he hasn't done very well. So I think we kind of leave it at that. Pekarsic, I'm not sold on bringing him up or bringing him on the healthy health sheet after that. I think we're going to kind of see how well we can do with those 2 players. I want to see how Ricard does. And we might even move him up after that. 5-2 win there. And Aaron Olsen gets his 4th, Bolduc gets his 5th, and Olsen gets his 6th before Lafreniere and Misa end up scoring there. So not too bad to finish things off. We now turn to Nashville, the current champions, 9-5-0. But the fact that we're 12-2-0 is pretty wild. Wall's making it very difficult not to turn back to our goalie just based on how well he's doing. So I think we have to kind of roll with it just a little bit. 4-3 win there in regulation, so they don't get any points there. Thomas, Bolduc, and Olsen end up scoring before Dvorsky scores in the 3rd, the eventual winner. No empty netters over the past 2 games. It's pretty crazy. And Neighbors might be back now. So obviously we're resting our hopes on... Oh no, he's not quite back yet. So still going to look at Ricard, who didn't manage to score in the last game, but we're going to give him another shot here. Obviously we have 12 games, I believe, before we end up losing that first year of contract there, but not going to really sweat it too much. Lafreniere currently top in terms of points, top 8. And Penkin now 4.5 star potential. And he's looking very good. Looking like we might have made a good decision there. Fyodorov now 3.5 stars, which is what I want to see. Aaron now with 3, but still only a 0.5 at 18. Anything else is jumping up? And Orchevsky still 0.5. I don't really like it when they don't... they're not that good. Spanberg now 1.5 though. And who's the other one that we got? Forsman, yeah, still only 1 star there, but the fact that Spanberg is 1.5, bravery and offensive read is not what I would necessarily want him to grow on, but Jekko improves his checking, Rene fighting and passing, Zetterberg as a team player, and we do have, Christian Verenhoff Our Keaton Verenhoff ends up getting leadership, shooting, and checking, which is what I want to see. And then Aspie with face-offs. So currently 15. That is pretty good. We're going to play a couple more games here before we end up jumping to the trade deadline. I think we might even add another video between now and the trade deadline to kind of see how well things are going now that we're not going to really do drafts, but I might include that for next season. And then just kind of have less of a gap because there's around like, I guess, 40 games between the trade deadlock. Levy Benson, a 21-year-old, now being extended for Philly. Now, I think we're going to go back to Augustin here and give him the opportunity. And let's see if we can win. We do lose 4-3, so that's not necessarily a good sign. Thomas with his 8th, 9th, and 10th, so gets a hat trick despite us losing. And now we end up facing off against Boston to hopefully round this out. Boston currently still only that one win. It's lucky that they finally end up getting it, but we're gonna have to end up digging deep to be able to beat them. I feel as though they're gonna give us trouble. Like I said, a lot of the teams that don't do well always give us the hardest time for whatever reason. But we're gonna end up not taking them lightly. Wall's probably gonna get the start here. And it just kind of sucks that he ended up losing that one before. But it looks like Neighbors is back, so that's a good sign for us. And we do win 3-0. So Wall with another shutout, making it a hard case for us to turn to our youngster. But Artemonov with his 4th, Villeneuve with his 2nd, and Verenhoff with his 1st. And then I think we're going to play against Montreal here. That's probably going to be your last game. I'm not going to praise anyone. I don't like doing that. Just like the goals of the owners, I don't like to focus too much on those. Just because I feel as though it can only do bad. I don't think it's going to necessarily improve our standing in the team. But we're going to face off against Montreal and see how well we can do there. And then we'll take a closer look at how well every player is doing and all like the hidden things in terms of stats that we don't necessarily see just by goals. We do lose 6-5, probably in overtime though. We lose a shootout, so that's not bad. Baldock with his 7 and 8, and then Vinicec with his 1st finally. Lafreniere with 11, and we give up 4 unanswered in the 3rd. That is crazy. We were dominantly winning, and then completely gave it up. How many shots did we give up in the 3rd? Huh. Let's see, where's it showing? Shots on goal. We give up 13. That is crazy. That's crazy. Can't believe we gave up 13 in the 3rd, and of those, 4 of them were goals. So Wall graded a 51 for this game, probably because of that. A lot of misses here. The only goals were Artemonov and then Dax and Rudolph, unfortunately, do face off against Montreal later, though. But taking a look at where it matters, and Palika's now hurt, which kind of sucks. 14-3-1, so we do suffer our first overtime loss there. But amongst 18 games, 14 wins is pretty awesome. Toronto now 11-4-1. I'm really hoping that they start to suck, though. In terms of the whole league, though, we are top of the league as well. Goals for 76 and 44 goals against for 29 points. That's pretty good. 8-1-0 at home and 6-2-0 away. So both of them pretty good. I can't even complain about that. Let's look at some of our stats. Baldock leading the way though with 22. So him being a second line center is pretty evident. Lafreniere with 20 points. And Thomas with 18, Misa with 14, so maybe he needs more ice time now. He's definitely can't be buried on the depth sheet. He's only getting 12 minutes. Artemonov, even though he gets 5 more minutes per game, around the same, and then Martoni getting around 18 with only 12, but still step in the right direction. He is definitely still improving. So I do like seeing that Dvorsky with 11, Olsen with 10 in 13 games is pretty good too, and Romani with 10, and Schergett with 9. Dupont with 9 and Vernhoff with 9 as well. And then goalie 9-0-1, 9.30 save percentage, and then Augustin 5-3-0 with a 920 save percentage. So hopefully you can manage to keep that going, and hopefully you can kind of build on that. But Augustin with roughly around the same amount of games and only 5 wins, I do think we're going to have to kind of rely on Wald just a little bit. But I'm going to want to kind of have that gap as close as 50-50 as I can, because Augustin is definitely one of those players that we're going to have to develop for sure. 920 save percentage is definitely a positive though. So hopefully you guys like this episode. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more, and thank you for watching. Until next time.